And if we're just looking at whole life versus IUL, I talk about a lot of like this idea of the tortoise and the hare. We remember the story of the tortoise, slow and steady, conservative. That's what whole life insurance is. And then you've got IUL, which is like the hare, going to get that high rate of return. We're going to be in the market. We're going to do all this cool stuff. And well, guess what? The tortoise wins every single time.
This is BetterWealth with Caleb Guilliams. Welcome to the BetterWealth Breakdown, where we break down concepts, ideas, quotes from around the world to help you live a more intentional life. And I'll say this, full disclosure, this is not going to be a great podcast as far as inspirational. It's going to be very real, and both Dan and I are not very happy right now. Let me give you I'll paint the picture. Dan did the research, and this is all about Index Universal Life. So if you've heard about Index Universal Life, it's in the permanent life insurance category, and it's essentially how to get the benefits of life insurance with the upside of the market with no downside. So it sounds really good. It essentially got incorporated in the 80s when people are like, oh, life insurance has all these amazing benefits, which, by the way, life insurance is incredible, mainly because when you put your money in, it can grow and can be used tax advantage, tax-free if set up and used properly. So there's some good benefits, and there's riders like the one that this literally has a rider that's an accelerated death benefit rider, which gives you a long-term benefit like benefits. And so in concept, it sounds amazing. And I wrote a book called The And Asset that's helping people take this concept and take the strategy. And we've gotten multiple people time and time again reach out to us and say, hey, I did this IUL deal. Can you take a look at it? Or I took your concept. I loved it and worked with someone down the street. And more when we've started seeing what's been going on, I'll be the first to say there's a reason why life insurance has such a bad rap, and rightfully so. Because this what we're literally going to show you, what someone called us in. I actually took the call and I started hearing this guy's story. Amazing, by the way. This guy has the right mindset, has the right overview, and the reason why he was calling us, he's reading his book. I'm reading my book and then looking at what he had, and it was just like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And I never on a phone call would tell someone to change or cancel their policy. So I was just like, dude, send me your illustration. I would love to take a look at it. And when Dan and our team started looking at this, it's so bad that not only are we going to do something about it, but we're going to make a video and just explain to you why we do what we do and what to look out for. So before we jump in, real big picture. My book's on how to use life insurance, and how to save your money, how to utilize the capital, have it grow the rest of your life, and still be able to use capital to do things that you love, invest in yourself. Okay, and big picture. That's great. We use whole life companies, and the reason why we use whole life is they're conservative. There's built-in guarantees. They're invested in the long term, but mainly the philosophy is you have a contract with an insurance company, and that insurance company is taking on certain risk and guaranteeing certain things, like that your policy won't blow up and that you can utilize your money. And so like the big philosophy is you put money in a place, it's going to do certain things. The company's saying, we promise we'll do this. And that's how it's set up. The reason why Index Universal Life at its biggest picture is different is the insurance companies are saying, we're not going to take this risk, we're going to push it on you, so your insurance can go up, and quite frankly could go skyrocket if we wanted it to. The cap rates and how we credit your money could be different. Things could change, so they're taking the risk from the insurance company and putting it back to you. That's the big reason why I dislike it. And then it's just way oversold. And as you can see in the contracts, it literally talks all over the map that it's going to lapse, which means it's going to implode, which it's going to explode, which is crazy to me. And then also, we'll talk about this. You can kind of break down the order, but like the cash surrender value, the amount of money that you would have access to is almost non-existent in the first couple of years. And the kind of policies that we design give people cash-rich plans. So if you have an indexed universal life, if you're thinking about getting life insurance, watch this video. And if you're working with people like us, watch this video because you'll love us more by the end. I promise.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I've never actually picked apart an IUL illustration. I've seen a lot of whole life illustrations. I'm the type of person, I want to see everything about it. I come from a family that will read letter by letter inside the contract. And that's a big piece here too to remember is this is a contract.
Yep.
Life insurance is a contract between you and the company. And so that means this is binding. The things that are in here are binding. And when you actually just take a moment, even if you have no concept of what this is or if there's anything compared to it, and you start reading what's in the contract, it's appalling.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people in the industry, and there's a guy that I really love who says he has the IUL or the UL rescue program. And it's essentially, like how can we prevent these things from blowing up? Like how can we prevent the problem before it happens? Because it says in the contract, it's going to blow up. Yep. And there's other independent sources out on the internet that they look at all these different products from whole life to IUL to VULs and everything in between. And they do holistic studies on what happens in them, how they operate, the historical things on them. And by and large, it's a lot of them are paid to be part of because they do a lot of time and research into these. And what I've found personally is that the majority of the community is actually attorneys.
Wow.
Because there's so many people that they've gotten into these maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and they've paid money into this for so long. And then, like you said, they blow up and they get really angry because the insurance company says you need to pay them $1 billion to keep the thing going.
Yep. And
it's like, wait a minute, I was paying into this thing for so long. So,
and real quick, when I was working at the bank, Dan, I got brought into an agency of someone was taking over a financial company agency, and he had to call a bunch of people that did these kind of plans in the 90s and had to tell them that they needed to save a whole lot more money or their policy would lapse. And these were people in retirement. These were people that were saving/investing their money in what they thought would be a retirement account. And not only is their insurance going away, but all the money that they put is going away. And I'm like, man, and I didn't know like a ton. In all fairness, IUL sounds really good.
Yeah.
You get the tax benefits, you get the upside of the market, you get no downside, meaning if the market does below zero, you get a credit of zero. So, and so the non-guaranteed perfect illustration, I guess, looks pretty good, but nothing happens perfectly. And we see real quickly, if it doesn't work out the way that you think it's going to work out, it's going to be really, really bad. And I just want to share with you why. When you're 75 years old or when you're 85 years old and when you have one of these policies and you didn't fund it the way that it was illustrated, or if it didn't perform the way that it was illustrated, there's something called a corridor of an insurance. This is essentially the gap of insurance. This is what you're paying insurance on. And when you're 34 years old, like this person, it's fine. It's totally like it's not that expensive. But when you're 74 years old and your corridor or gap of insurance is great because you didn't fund it properly, or the illustrations didn't work out, you didn't make 7% every single year, then paying term insurance that could be any price, by the way, is crazy, and it literally implodes and it literally explodes. And most people, there's some people that are paying a ton of money. This person was putting $10,000 in a year, which is a lot of money. There's some people that are putting in a ton of money in these things, and it's crazy to me what's going on. So I'm sorry, I had to. This is really infuriates me.
Well, and it's crazy because we will see in our lifetime, you're going to see all over the news, you're going to see a lot of class action lawsuits of people like, I didn't know this is what I was getting myself into. And that's when we talk about the sad reality is it's easy to sell these things.
Totally.
Because it sounds amazing. And it goes back to a lot of these old adages of if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And if we're just looking at whole life versus IUL, I talk about a lot of like this idea of the tortoise and the hare. We remember the story of the tortoise, slow and steady, conservative. That's what whole life insurance is. And then you've got IUL, which is like the hare, going to get that high rate of return. We're going to be in the market. We're going to do all this cool stuff. And well, guess what? The tortoise wins every single time. And so, actually diving into this contract, even on page 4, I right away, it says that the monthly cost of insurance is variable on all years of the policy.
Meaning there's no metric to what it could be.
And that's exactly it. Like even if like everything that was illustrated here today is accurate, that next month could be completely different.
And in full honesty, 10 years from now, if this company, because everyone's going to rename nameless, including the company in this scenario, if the company wanted to change its direction or go a different way, all they do is hike up the insurance cost, which they are fully able to do.
Yeah.
And your whole retirement plan, your strategy is hosed.
Yeah. And then, just going down to one of the next page 7. And this basically says that almost everything in it is variable. The current cap.
Meaning again, IUL is you're in the index, so you can get upside in the market, and then when it goes below 0, they just credit you at a 0. And so what they're saying is the cap rate, which is, which is what?
And
it varies, by the way, from 9% to 25%, and that can be changed at any time.
That's insane. 25%.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah.
But in all of these things, the current cap, the floor, the participation rates, and the spread rates, they can vary again on a monthly basis.
Yeah, and in full, and again, I'm seeing both sides of this. The companies have to have language like that because this is not like when you're dealing with an index, when you're dealing with things that are not necessarily guaranteed. And by the way, these insurance companies are not actually in the market. They buy option trades, and because the market is, or because interest rates are so low, the options, it's kind of complicated, but they get insurance, they get a fixed interest that they can make off your money. They buy an option for the index, and that's how they determine the cap rates. But that's not even the problem. The problem is there's two big problems. The problem is all this can change, and literally on the illustration in multiple areas it says that it's going to lapse. Do you want to explain what a lapse is, and you want to break that down?
Well, and that's one of the things I literally cannot believe, and I wish you guys could see this. On the contract, there's a matrix, a table that has like 9 different boxes, and it just says lapse, 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 lapse. And what that means is you've been paying into this policy this entire time, and there's no money left in it to continue to operate. And you again, going back to, you may have been paying into this thing and it depends based on what the interest rates are on it, but you could have been paying into it for 10, 20, 30 years, and then you have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it says that right in the contract.
Yeah.
And that's where, when I'm looking at this, I'm amazed at, can you explain guaranteed versus non-guaranteed before we get into the interest rate?
Yeah, so guaranteed is essentially saying, like, let's say your policy underperforms. It's saying the current cap rate is, let's say 25% or 11%. And then if it doesn't perform that over a period of time, you're going to get a guaranteed rate of 4%. Okay. Now, the person that hears that says, okay, like, that's way better than a savings account, 4% rate of return. And by the way, there's people that are talking to whole life that the 4% guaranteed is what you're getting. That is totally false, because they pay you that 4%, but then they take off cost of insurance, mortality, cost of doing business. So, and you'll see real quickly that's nowhere near this. It's quite frankly a lie, and it's sad to me that people can put this, because the consumer, the people that are reading my book, are saying like, oh, like this is just like whole life, but upside. False.
Correct. And even just looking at that guarantee of 4%, of how untrue that is on this particular policy, there is a rider called the no lapse guarantee policy continuation rider.
Yeah, so pretty much if you need a rider to not lapse your policy, think twice.
It's insane. Like the fact that that's available is insane. And then to find out that it costs $250 a month.
And this is on a $10,000 policy, by the way.
So that's costing $3,000. 30% of the $10,000 is going just to protect the policy from blowing up.
And if it was not on there, what would the guarantee? It was going to lapse around year 11,
yeah,
right?
So let me break that down a little bit for you. So the rider stays on for 20 years. It's a 20-year rider, meaning that the policy cannot lapse as long as you're paying for the rider. So if in year 8 you decide you don't want to pay the $250, well, then by the way, the the guaranteed side, it lapses in year 15.
It's crazy.
And you had just finished paying premiums. This was paid premiums for 12 years at $10,000, and 3 years later, it lapses.
It's crazy.
And so that rider, it stays on for 20 years, so you're good for 20. And then, by the way, in year 21, guess what? It lapses. And again, remember, this is on the guaranteed side, but that's a huge drag on the efficiency of this policy.
And in whole life, for example, the guaranteed side is assuming no dividends ever get paid. Okay, so in whole life, the illustrations, the non-guaranteed illustration is based on current dividends. Now, again, interest rates are super low, so these are not looking. It doesn't look great, which I love because you can look at someone and say, listen. This I don't know what's going to happen over the next 20, 30 years, but I know that this is not showing interest rates in the 80s.
Right.
Like these are showing pretty low interest rates. Okay? So it could be higher, it could be lower. These are showing indexes, and when you have to have a maximum permitted illustration, that essentially means that people will take advantage of you if they don't have there was a day that they could illustrate anything.
Well, yeah, and again, I really want to highlight that. They cannot illustrate higher than whatever it's probably the insurance commissioners or whatever. Yeah. They cannot illustrate higher than a certain interest rate because
looks like 7.39%.
Yeah, which again, they're showing maximum. And then I think the other piece to remember here is there's a lot of deception going on in this because it's looking at there's this huge cap rate of 25%. You got this nice guarantee of 4%, and then they even throw in, just for fun, the 30-year historical averages here, which are all, they're in upper 6s to the upper 8% range. And so again, going back to how easy it would be to, say, look, you could, historically, this is what it gets. So you're going to get that, and the policy is going to perform this way, and you're going to ride off into the sunset. And it's so frustrating because there's so much going on, so much else going on in here. And they even conveniently for us, put in 3 different metrics: the guaranteed interest, the midpoint interest, so the difference between the average between the guaranteed and the maximum illustrated, and then the maximum illustrated.
And this person, by the way, is 34 years old, just to give you context. Okay, so the guaranteed meaning the policy does not perform well, so you get the guaranteed 4%. So in your head, it's not going to turn out that great, right? But this thing actually blows up.
Age 53.
20 years after the non-lapse rider. It would have blown up in year 15.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's how much? $60,000 down the drain?
Well, more than that, because there's $120,000 down the drain.
$120,000 down the drain. Wow. Okay. So what's the next?
The next one is the midpoint. And so again, for transparency here, this is what they're illustrating is, and again, context here is on an IUL, there's allocations. So your premium goes to different funds. And so there was 3 different allocations, and it was a 2.88%, a 3.7%, and a 3.7%. And so, on that average, let's give it benefit of the doubt. Let's say it's 3.25%. And even that, which again, by the way, most whole life policies will outperform that.
Yeah.
It lapses at age 57, only 4 years after the guarantee.
Yeah. And here's the crazy thing, and in a perfect world, if you funded it properly and it never lost money and you got an average of, if you got exactly what they talk about, you would have $20 million at year 120. So it's like, on one hand, this thing could blow up in 20 years. And on another hand, you could have $20 million. Now, year 120, so it's just it's a little bit alarming. And again, I know there's a lot of people. Number one, there's a lot of people that are doing this right. I stay away from this because of our philosophy. But there are people that are doing this right. I know there's going to be a lot of hate on this video, especially for people that are that do this. And I don't want this to be taken out of context. It's just when we hear somebody who read my book, who wants to bank with their policy, wants to do certain things, and then they have their money in something like this, it makes me sick because I genuinely feel bad for this person, and that's why we're making this video. The other thing is I'm going off of their current best case scenario here, and I want to share with you what kind of access you have to your money. So in the policies that we design, you have anywhere from 65% to 85, 90% of cash value first year you can access. Meaning, if you put in $100,000 in year one, you would have a large chunk of money that you could borrow against to use in real estate, your business, or whatever. And our whole philosophy is save a dollar where it will grow the rest of your life, and then but be able to utilize and control that dollar throughout your life. Okay? If you want to learn more, in the comments below, or you can go to andasset.com. And you can get a free book, or you can check us out at betterwealth.com. We have a ton of info as it relates to that, and there'll be more info in the description below. But in year one, Dan, this person puts $10,000 in, zero cash value in year one, meaning this person thought they were reading the accumulated value, which is just funny math, and they were saying, oh, I would have over $6,000 to become my own banker.
Yep.
Wrong. Zero. Year two, another $10,000. Zero cash value. Unbelievable. Year three, another $10,000. This person's in $30,000, and best case scenario, cash surrender value, they're at a whopping $2,637. Year four, put in another $10,000, and finally, optimistically, you've annually almost broke even. It's up about $9,000. So now you're at $12,000, and you look, and it takes 15 years to break even. And by the way, so the point that I'm making is this is an awful policy to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even do what we're teaching, and there's a pretty good argument that you could make that it's not going to perform the way that you think it is, and it could potentially blow up. And so real quick, will this happen? I'm not sure. I don't want to be a person that sets someone up with something that I need to apologize in year 15, 20, 30 years. And, well,
I think that's a good point right there. Is we talk about all the time of we're going to be doing this for a long time. We have no intention of going anywhere. We're building a movement. We want to impact 1 million people in the next 5 years and well beyond that. And so we simply cannot be in the business of offering something like this. And again, there are scenarios where properly funded, they can make sense. We're not here saying that they're the absolute worst thing, but in most scenarios, again, just read the verbiage in here. And that's really the main thing is just like a public service announcement here of these things we're hearing a lot about, and people are calling in and saying, hey, somebody, illustrated me this, what can you give me? And it's like, hold on, even that at a baseline, that's not how we operate. Because we take people through a process. We really want to understand where you're at, what you're trying to accomplish. And then well after we've established that, then we're looking at what products might help you accomplish those goals.
Yep.
But again, like if you're going to your financial advisor or somebody's coming to you and they're offering something like this, your ears should be perked up.
Yeah.
And you should be taking a look at what does the verbiage in the contract actually say. And we also want to be the resource. Much like this gentleman, we will serve him extremely well, and we're very excited to. And we're literally shooting this video the day of receiving it because of how crazy this is, and we want to serve you. So if you have something like this, if you're questioning of like what is going on, maybe I've been funding one of these for a couple of years already, and I want to know if it's not what I thought it was. Like, please reach out, comment below. Like, we are here. We're here to serve. And I'm honestly speechless on this. I never, I knew a bit of, but this is crazy.
and we both had the opportunity to talk to this guy, and this person wants to do the right thing, and I think it's frustrating to see this situation. And so we're gonna share with what we can share, and we're going to continue to be the source that we want to continue to pump out information. So if you're listening to this, thank you for being a dedicated listener to Better Wealth. We love when you share this, and especially if you're someone that you think that this could be relevant to, please share this episode. If you're watching us on YouTube, smashing the like button, subscribing, sharing our channel would mean the world. And if you have questions, reach out to us. we want to be the resource, like Dan said, and we do some things very unique, not around products, by the way, around a process and around a process with a model backed up by math that can, anything that we do, we will show you on a financial model on a 2-line graph, whether this makes sense or not. We do that for a reason, because we know products will come and go. We want to invest in solutions that will be here now and after we go. And by the way, there's a good chance that most people watching this are older than us.
Yeah.
And that's just, we have to think long term. So any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would say smash your IUL policy just like you smashed that subscribe button.
That's good. All right. Thank you guys. Take care. Reach out to us. And until next time. Thank you so much for listening to the BetterWealth podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this with the people that you know and love.